Welcome back to Pack Mentality. I'm Matt Benwart. My wife Caitlin and I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California. And we started this podcast with one goal in mind, and that was to make fitness education accessible, engaging, and effective for everyone. Today, Caitlin and I are going to be chatting about the top 6 foods that are often perceived as healthy, but they are actually misleading. So Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Always good to have you. You ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. We're just going to rattle them off. Let's go with number 1, granola bars. What are your thoughts on those?
Definitely delicious, but avoid at all costs. I don't remember the last time I even had a granola bar. I love the Nature's Valley one, the green bar growing up, and the chewy bars. Those were always really good, but they're absolutely terrible for you. So much sugar, so much processed foods. I mean, it's just another, there's like M&Ms in them sometimes. It's just, they're not good.
Yeah. Can you tell us, you know a lot about sugar and how it affects the body. Can you kind of go into a little more detail about sugar specifically and what it does?
It basically causes more inflammation, reduces your immune system, and then, it basically makes your hormonal levels just all out of whack. So sugar can definitely cause a lot of imbalances in your body, and just try to avoid it at all costs. And just rely on, solid fruits as far as where you're going to get your sugar from, and try not to add it in any other way. Yeah,
absolutely. I know exactly what you mean by the Nature Valley bars and just granola bars in general. But, they're often marketed as being healthy snacks, but they're very high in sugar, like we discussed.
They put like whole grains on it, or they put fiber, high in fiber. Well, you can get fiber from just eating fruit, you don't need, right? And essentially it's the exact same thing. So like a granola bar will have 26 grams of carbs. Right. And I say 26 because I specifically know a lot of bars. I look at all the labels. 26 is generally where it's at. And like 18 of them is sugar, right? And but then you look at some fruit, and like a banana has 20 grams of carbs in it, very similar. But then we're talking about fructose instead, and so that's a better one instead. Or sorry, not fructose. No, is it fructose?
I think so.
Yeah.
Fructose in fruit. Yes.
Yeah. So, a better choice in that sense. Everybody knows a banana is probably better than a granola bar, but the carbs are the exact same. So you have to just be more well aware of what could I replace this with instead? What could I eat instead of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention that their granola bars specifically are extremely dense in calories because it's processed essentially. So you're taking something that's pretty much big, and you're condensing, you're compressing it into something smaller. And then when you do that, when you eat it, you're eating a lot more calories per bite. And what happens is it doesn't fill you up as much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm still hungry after I eat one granola bar.
It's not as filling. That's the problem with processed foods. It's not necessarily that the processing itself is bad. It's just that when you process something, it just condenses something that's big and filling to something smaller, and then you don't get as full, so therefore you have to eat more, and then by default you eat more calories.
Yep.
A good example of this is a good alternative would be like a pound of strawberries. Like an entire pound of strawberries is only about 40 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
That's insane. A pound of strawberries is a lot of strawberries.
Yeah.
So you can either eat a pound of strawberries, or you can eat a granola bar, which probably has more carbs in it and more sugar than an entire pound of strawberries. And then the pound of strawberries would be more filling, because I don't know if you ever tried to eat a pound of strawberries before, but it's not easy.
I saw you eating it like a month ago, and I was like, wow, that's really hard.
I know. I didn't realize it. And then I looked it up. I'm like, how many carbs is this? I was like, oh, it's 35? Are you serious?
Yeah. And again,
you
have to refer back to what else is 35 for a point of reference, and it's kind of disappointing sometimes. And I do this a lot. I go to the store, and I'm human. I crave, probably junk food just like anybody else once a month for sure. And then, and I'm comparing, in the store, hey, what can I eat instead? And I'm trying to find the best one that has the most volume of food for the macros that I'm willing to sacrifice, right? Yes. So if I'm going to eat something high in sugar, high in carbs, well, it better fill me up then. It better not be this tiny little macro bar and I'm starving after, because that's just a waste of my time, in my opinion. I like to enjoy food. I like to make sure I'm still full. So it better fill me up.
Yeah. And if you're one of those people who kind of have a sweet tooth or, kind of like that granola thing, just replace it with fruit. You try and replace all sweets with fruit, especially berries, because they are lower in carbs per pound. It's less, there's more natural sugars in it. And also there's more fiber and you'll be more full and be less likely to grab other things. So the only issue is if you're actually full, the less likely you are to grab something that's not unhealthy.
Yes, 100%. And definitely we've noticed that recently this past year where we kind of changed up our diet a little bit and really tightened it up, I guess. And wow, we don't even crave anything outside of our little bubble of food.
Yeah. And what's funny is when we venture out, we're like
disappointed.
Like a few days later, we're like, we need to come right back into this.
Yes.
We were doing.
And we're hurting. Like my body is just, it's hurting. I can tell I'm not recovering. Inflammation, and I can't believe people live like this all the time.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that people are always in pain and they're like, oh, I'm always so sore. I'm like, well, yeah, you're constantly inflamed. Like your body is literally hurting constantly because you fill it poison. If you don't fill it with anything meaningful and it can work with to get better.
Yeah. And it's really easy to fall in that rut because you don't even know what it feels like to feel good.
Yeah.
And it's really, then that becomes your default status.
Your
and
normal
you don't really,
is crap.
Yeah. And you really don't, but you don't know any different.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way because I didn't really realize it until I started getting older in my mid-20s when I watched what I ate. And then I didn't realize how bad I used to feel because that was just how I felt. I thought that was just how I feel.
Yep.
And then once my brain fog went away, once my energy levels got back up, I'm like, how am I going to go back?
Yeah.
Especially when I started eating like crap every once in a while just for fun because I wanted to, and then you're just like, oh man,
yeah, nostalgia.
It just wasn't worth it.
No, yeah. Like when I go back, I hate to say it, but when I go back to Hawaii, I try to eat foods that I grew up on and things that I used to like, and I'll be honest, I don't like any of it anymore, and it's really disappointing. Foods that I literally ate my whole life, and now I try to eat it and I'm just like, wow, this is not good. And I really hope that people are more willing to make changes and, big lifestyle changes for the best of their health. Even if it means culturally giving up some things that you really used to like.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on that. Let's move right into number 2. This one's very similar. This is flavored yogurt. And even though that plain yogurt is healthier, like things like Greek yogurt, low-fat Greek yogurt, is that flavored versions like, Yoplait, like what we grew up on, is those flavored versions often contain high amounts of sugar, again, and additives.
Yeah, it's the additives. That's kind of where it's at. I mean, Yoplait does now make a much better yogurt. It's just like they're cheaper ones, I guess you could say, on the list, really have so much additives, natural flavors, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how they lump it all together.
Isn't technically everything a natural flavor, technically?
Exactly. That's how they get you. So avoid natural flavors at all costs. But then some people are like, well, what is there to eat? I'm like, I know, it is tough.
It's very hard.
Tough to really cut out all the additives and the processed stuff. Like you really have to hunt down and look at the ingredients list. But yeah, for yogurt, the best one to get is Oikos, I think, for sure, if that's how you say it. The Oikos.
Oikos,
brand.
that's what I call it, Oikos.
The black one, the black container. And yeah, that's by far the best tasting, the most consistent and price and flavor, and has the highest protein and the lowest sugar. Like it's literally the best yogurt. I don't know any other flavor or brand that can compete. I mean, maybe some other people have preferences, but if you're looking at a scientific base of macros, that's the one.
Yeah, Oikos is very good. It's definitely one of the better tasting Greek yogurts that I've ever had. Mm-hmm. I do like Faye or Phage, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, but the macros aren't as good on that.
The macros aren't as good, but I like dipping chips in it because it's like sour cream to me.
Yeah, it is the better texture.
I know I shouldn't be eating chips, but I do sometimes. So
again, pick what you want to fill up on. If you're going to pick a carb,
I just dump that yogurt all over it, and it's just
all over chips.
All over chip. I'm very weird. I eat some weird things. We won't get into that. Maybe at the end of the podcast, we wrap things up. We'll talk about the things we do eat.
Yes.
Let's move on to number 3. We have veggie chips. So these I love veggie chips.
But so disappointing to find out that they're really not good for you.
I know, and we found this out recently, unfortunately.
Yeah, because we used to give it to the kids, the veggie straws.
I love veggie straws.
But actually, yeah, really bad. We don't buy them anymore, and the kids are kind of bummed. They do definitely ask me still for veggie straws, and I can't buy them. So, there's just a bunch of fake stuff.
Yeah.
Just fake. I don't even know why we thought it was good.
Yeah.
Now looking back in hindsight, but
totally.
I guess when you're trying to really pick the right alternatives, again, you're limited. We're limited on options.
Yeah.
And we have kids just like anybody else. We're trying to satisfy them. I don't want to deprive them either of just being like super strict on what they can and cannot eat. But at the same time, I care about what we give them, because so many things are coming out now about how food affects, brain development and ADHD and all these other things. And so, I want to give the best for them. And so that means that we really monitor what they eat.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up about like ADHD and all that stuff, because I did notice, growing up, I had a very high sugar diet growing up. Like, dude, I was the worst.
You drink so much soda.
Oh God. I mean, my family is from the Midwest.
Oh, we should mention that, just so you all know, as for reference, what is a high sugar diet? Well,
let's go over that.
It is anything over 70 grams of sugar.
Which doesn't seem like a lot.
It's not a lot, because if you think about some energy drinks or just like some fruit drinks, I know a V8 has like 32 grams of sugar in a serving, like something ridiculous. And if you're only limited on 70, you're going to get over that real quick. If you're eating only processed foods, and you're just eating like an imbalanced diet, your sugar level is probably 100, 200 grams a day. I don't even know what the average American ingests, but when they always stack those sugar cubes up, and they're the average American eats this much sugar, I'm sure that's over 70 grams.
Yeah.
So that is what we are referring to when it comes to what's a high sugar diet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know firsthand of how toxic a high sugar diet can be, because growing up, like I said, back to my story.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm glad you chimed in with that fact, because I wasn't aware of that till recently either. That I was drinking a ton of soda. I'd probably have at least 2 sodas a day at least.
Oh my God.
Dude, that's so bad. And that was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, can you
were your teeth like
dude, I had cavities
all
the time. And not to mention I was very ADD. I wasn't diagnosed with ADD, but I was diagnosed with dyslexia, which did not help the problem.
Yeah.
Because I could not focus. I could not concentrate. I had brain fog all the time. Like, looking back on it, also I had a diet of McDonald's and pizza, like classic 90s diet.
Yeah.
A 90s kid.
For sure.
We at the time.
I think everybody lived this life.
Exactly.
Candy. I mean.
Oh yeah, candy all the time.
I used to think about all the candy bars I would eat, like whole bars.
Oh yeah, I would get a candy bar at the store every time I went.
God,
it was so bad. And so I didn't really clean up my diet till college, when I found CrossFit, and I found back then they still taught the zone diet. And so I was like, I'm just gonna try it. I'm gonna see how much this actually affects me. And then I couldn't believe, after just a few weeks, of how much better my focus was. I felt better. I was sleeping better. My workouts got better. My grades improved. Like, I was like, man, this really, nutrition really does matter. Because the entire time growing up in high school, even when I would lift in high school, and even right when I first started CrossFit, I didn't think nutrition mattered at all. And then just one day I was like, hey, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to see, just balance out, eat more protein, watch, lower my sugar intake, and just watch my carb intake, still eat carbs, still eat fat, but just be smarter about, the macronutrients. And then, I will never go back. Like, everything got better. My whole life got better after just changing my nutrition and working out. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it can really affect you. And I think that's why a lot of people need to start reassessing, the processed foods that not only we give ourselves, but what we give our kids.
Mm-hmm. And then just wrapping up, I think I forgot to add this about the veggie chips, was that they're often just coated with vegetable powder, and they're high in fat and sodium on top of that. Yeah,
if anything, just make your own veggie chips, which means just putting some asparagus in the air fryer, put some oil on it, make it like a little fried, and boom, you have asparagus chips.
Exactly. It's 2024, people. Get an air fryer.
Yeah. It changes your life.
Let's move on to number 4. We're talking about smoothies. Now, smoothies was something I had a lot too.
Oh man, smoothies.
I had a lot of smoothies back in the day.
For sure. Everybody still has a lot of smoothies, but unfortunately, And I struggle with this because, man, there are days where I'm like, I'm just going to get a nectar or a Jamba Juice.
Especially during the summer.
God, they're so good. And I definitely grew up drinking like the worst one possible, the peanut butter mood.
I love the peanut butter mood. That's my favorite one too. But you're healthy if you put protein powder in it, right?
And it's bananas and peanut butter. And you know how much they market that like, oh, it's healthy fats. But they don't tell you that it's like 90 grams of fat in a smoothie. On top of sugar and carb. Oh my God, when you look at the macros on the website, it is so like your jaw drops.
Do you know what the macros are?
No, but I mean, I'm pretty close. 90 grams of fat, like literally. Okay, like look it up. It's like 150. Right, it's something ridiculous because who gets the little tiny one anyway, right? You always get like the medium size. And even then, it's jaw dropping. And then you look up, I've done this before. I Googled, healthiest Jamba Juice, right? And it's always like the shitty one, like strawberry whirl, like one that nobody wants. Or at Nectar, if you get a juice, like a green juice, the toxin flush or whatever, that has a ton of carbs in it because it's all vegetables and fruits. And you have to remember, they put like a whole apple and a whole cucumber and a whole like all this stuff. You really don't need that much. If you just ate that, you would be so full. But unfortunately, because you drink it, you're going to be hungry within an hour with stuff that should have kept you full all day long. So, smoothies are great in an emergency, but definitely not something to live off of.
Okay. I got the facts.
Oh, you do?
You ready?
Yeah. While I was talking, you were
looking up. I have no idea what you were talking about because I was looking up the peanut butter mood because I had to know.
Okay, so what is it?
I have it on my phone right now, so let's go over it. This is for a large. Should I do large? Okay. So you're way off on the fat, by the way.
Oh.
So it's 30 grams of fat.
Oh, wow. I was way off.
Just wait till you see the sugar.
Oh, okay. So
the sugar is insane.
What is it?
It's 124 grams.
124.
That is nuts.
In one drink.
And
obviously people drink the rest of the day.
Like, that is insane.
That's crazy.
Amount of sugar.
How much carbs?
31 grams of protein. 146 grams of carbs.
146
grams of carbs.
I don't even eat that in an entire day. No. Not even close.
The majority of people
should be under 100.
Should be under 100. Especially if you're sedentary. If you
drink this drink, you will already be over on your macros. Forget it.
Yeah, that's insane. So the fat doesn't scare me, but it's definitely the carbs and the sugar.
Oh,
that is insane how much carbs.
What is that coming from? Probably like the frozen yogurt in it.
Yeah, it's from the fruit. Guess how many calories it is?
Probably quite a bit. 600?
940.
Yeah.
940 calories in one drink.
That's your day. So anybody who's sedentary, if you do not work out, pretty much you can only have a large Jamba Juice, and then that's it for the day. You're done. So like elderly people.
The only thing you can eat the rest of the day if you have one Jamba Juice for the average amount of person would be like you have to eat like a pound of meat and then that's it.
No, that would be too much. Half a pound of meat.
Yeah, half a pound.
The leanest possible too, because you can't sacrifice anything else.
That's true because
shocking.
That is insane.
See?
It's a lot of carbs.
So the moral of the story is don't have any smoothies.
And plus it won't fill you up. I mean, how many times have you guys had a smoothie and been like, 2 hours later, you're like, I'm starving.
That's what I talked about while you were looking up the facts.
Oh, sorry. I do that. I just had to know. All right, let's move on to number 5. And I love trail mix.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's trail mix. I like
trail mix. Yes. So good. But again, just one of those things where you can't eat that much for the amount of calories it is. It's so dense in calories.
Very calorie dense.
And unfortunately, they marketed it like this to the average person who doesn't work out, who's on the couch. Even if you're the average person who works out 3 times a week, you can't eat trail mix. You can't afford it because you don't work out enough. You don't burn enough calories. They say it's healthy fats. But who eats just one serving of trail mix? I mean,
I sure don't.
Nobody can.
Especially if there's peanut butter in it.
Yeah, like it's so hard to resist. And like one serving is like barely your palm.
It's very small.
So small.
I've had the single serving packets and been like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's like, okay, you throw it back and you're like, what's next?
Yeah, it's like taking pills.
Trail mix is great if you're on an 8-mile hike in the woods.
Hence the name. Keep it with the name.
It's called trail mix for the average person, you cannot afford those calories. They are not going to fill you up. You're going to be hungry later. Then you're going to overeat. It's just setting you up for being unsuccessful. So
yeah.
So the moral of the story: avoid at all costs as well.
Yeah. Use trail mix for the trail. And if that trail is less than 2-3 miles, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Just bring water. You'll be fine. Now, if you're doing something like Baldy or something, trail mix might be helpful.
And granola bars.
And granola bars. And flavored yogurt and veggie chips. And a smoothie. But let's be real. You guys don't do that. Let's wrap up things with number 6, and then we'll go over kind of our daily life of our nutrition, just to give people some context on what to do.
Okay.
So frozen yogurt. I love frozen yogurt.
Froyo.
So it's often seen as a healthy alternative to ice cream, but again, theme high in sugar and sugary additions, because usually people will put toppings onto it as well, and very calorie dense.
Always. I mean, who doesn't put toppings? You go for the toppings.
I don't put toppings.
Oh, weirdo.
I'm a
psychopath.
I am a psychopath.
Froyo, again, it's not the real thing. So anything that's not the real thing is going to be heavily processed, right? And it's just going to have additives in to make it taste like the real thing, which the real thing is that I'm referring to is ice cream. So if you're going to eat ice cream, people, just eat the real thing and eat the thing with the least amount of ingredients listed. There's actually a ice cream I really wanted to try, but it wasn't at the Sprouts I went to. I needed to go to another one. It's like bear ice cream or something, BEAR, like the animal. And it has like 5 ingredients in it. And it's supposed to be like, one of the healthier ones.
Right.
I haven't actually tried it yet, but it looked really good. So if you see it out there and you want to try it, get that one. Otherwise, I really like Strauss or something like that. It's like from a dairy farm. But stuff that just avoid processed things, avoid fake things. If it's not the real thing, don't eat it.
Absolutely. And look at the calories too. One thing that really helps me, and this might help you too, and this is kind of sadistic, is that if I look at something like on the label, I will instantly just look at the calories per serving, like something that's unhealthy. And I'll always tell myself, I can either eat, if I eat this, I'm going to have to do that same amount of calories on the Echo bike. And then that helps me make a better choice. And it kind of puts in perspective. So there you go. I know you all hate the Echo bike. So next time you grab something that's very calorie dense, just tell yourself, be like, hey, if I eat 1 serving, I'm going to have to do X amount of calories on the Echo bike as a bonus. And that might make you think twice.
Yeah, that. I like how you said 1 serving though, because remember, it's really important to read the labels clearly, because serving sizes are different for everything. And this is where I get really OCD about stuff, because when I look at a label and it's like, I don't know, for example, 5 chips is 1 serving. But then this other bag with very similar macros as far as protein, fat, and carbs, but the serving size is 10 chips. I'm like, oh, I'm obviously going to eat that one because I get more chips, same macros. I'm going to be more full.
Yes.
Right? Like you have to make when you start, these are more, I think, for more advanced people in fitness and health and whatnot. But when you're trying to get really tight on your health and your food choices, these are the things that really start to matter, right? Serving sizes and making hard choices between one or the other. And I follow like a few Instagrams that have posted now, like, oh, if you used to like this brand, this is the healthier version of it instead. And it's healthier because it has less additives and less processed sugars and stuff like that. So there are healthier choices, just like how everything is scalable. You can always make something better, right? You can make something better in the gym. You can always make your form better, your technique better, but you can also make your food choices better as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that can be really deceiving about serving size is actually the amount per serving. Like a good example of this is cereal. Like 1 serving of cereal is like 1 cup. And let's be real, who only eats 1 cup of cereal? I sure don't.
Unless you get a really small bowl.
I get the biggest bowl I can find and I just dump that thing in there and just pour milk all over it.
My gosh.
I know I'm weird. But yeah, like I've never just been like, oh, let me get my measuring cup and measure 1 cup of cereal.
Well, it's good to visually see it. Like
I don't want to know.
Yeah, you should know. Don't tell them that.
But I personally don't. I just want to enjoy my cereal.
This is true. But like you've made better choices throughout the day, so you can do these things.
Yes.
Right. So
yes. Lately,
if you struggle with making good decisions in general, you need to be more strict on yourself and measure.
Yeah, if you're also at that point, don't keep it around. because
Yeah.
the
Don't set yourself up for failure.
you probably already lack impulse control to begin with. So the best way to kind of make the right step
Don't buy
forward
it.
is not to have it in the first place, because then you have to worry about serving size because you won't be eating it.
Yeah, just don't buy it. Don't buy it. It's so, you know what's hilarious is that like all of this is so self-controllable. Like, stop buying it, people. Like, why are you spending the money on foods that you know are unhealthy? And it's funny when people ask me, and I have some new clients right now, and they ask me, oh, so what do you eat? And I know they know what the answer is already. They know what healthy, everybody knows what eating healthy is. Oh, I eat protein and vegetables and fruit. And when I tell them that, they're like, is that it? And I'm like, yeah. Like, there isn't anything else. I mean, every once in a while we'll have like cheese and beef sticks and like
Crackers.
some crackers, but that's simply because we have kids. So I have some snacks for them, and I'm not going to lie. I do eat, I eat their leftovers. I'm not going to waste, especially if I make a whole plate for everybody and they don't eat it. Well, I'm going to eat it, but I don't buy things for them either that's unhealthy, that's going to set me up for failure.
Yeah.
Right. They only eat exactly what we eat. And I mean, I don't know if that's considered strict or not, but that's how we run our household, and there are no complaints.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when it comes down to it, when you really narrow things down, that if you want to make these changes and make them sustainable, you have to start with the absolute basics. And the very first thing that you can do that's basic that will yield results immediately is getting everything that's unhealthy out of your house. You just have to do it.
Yep. You drink water, and that's it. Get rid of all those drinks. No alcoholic drinks, right? If you're trying to make a change, if you really want to make a change in your life, get rid of that, because that's holding you back.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap things up, I think it would be beneficial, and this wasn't planned, but let's actually talk about kind of just like a day of eating that you and I do, just to give people context on how we do our stuff.
Okay.
Because I like what you said earlier that, everyone knows the answer. Because
It is. It's
it
true.
is. Like, there's no secret to it. And people are like, well, how do you do that? I'm like, I just do it. Like, I don't.
We've come to the point now where I don't crave anything else. Like, I don't want things that I used to eat all the time. Like, and I understand when people say like it's hard to give things up. Yeah, I get it. I've been there. I still have a sweet tooth. We never skip dessert in this house. We always have something. And that's because everything else leading up to that point is dialed and planned.
Yes.
So yeah, I know exactly what I eat. I eat the same thing every single morning. 5 a.m. can probably attest to this. I eat a perfect bar. I have some type of fruit, whether it be a real fruit, That's It bar, or a fruit pouch from the kids, honestly. And then I have a yogurt, the Oikos yogurt, and I usually put pistachios inside because I like to start my day with a lot of healthy fats, so like a lot of nuts, and like the perfect bar, like I said, because I'm on the go from 4 a.m. all the way to usually like 7 or 8 o'clock. So I need to burn. I burn a lot of calories very quickly, and I cannot sustain on an empty stomach. So I eat some very dense foods in the morning. And then from there, I usually ground meat, right? Like half a pound, whatever you bring me. And usually with that, I just put guacamole or salsa. I don't eat toast with it. I don't eat crackers with it. There's nothing else. No bagels, no donuts. And then lunch is usually either the same thing, ground meat, or typically I like to do like tuna or hard-boiled eggs. And that, though, we'll eat with like chips.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a little self-indulgent moment. And that's really like the first carbs I had during the day other than the fruit in the morning. And then protein shake at some point after a workout, whatever time that is. And then dinner, again, meat and vegetables and cooked in a lot of butter for a good flavor. And yeah, that's it. And then we leave room for dessert or something at the end of the night to kind of splurge on. But that's pretty much my entire day.
Yeah.
It really doesn't sound like a lot of food.
It doesn't sound like it, but I mean, they're also not seeing the portion sizes of that.
Yeah,
I guess.
Probably a lot bigger than the average person.
Yeah, absolutely. The only changes I have to the nutrition, I pretty much eat, the same thing as Caitlin for lunch and dinner, and then we have like our little treat at night as well. The only thing that I do a little bit differently, since I'm not up as early as her, is that I go after I drop off the kids, I usually have like a pound of meat, either a half a pound to a pound, and then I usually have a banana or an apple. with that. And so my carbs throughout the day is mostly just fruit.
Yeah.
So it's either like, an apple, banana, throughout the day, or
Berries.
And then meat. And then usually for lunch is usually tuna. 2 cans of tuna with relish and
Yep. 2 cans of tuna is 80 grams of protein. It's like 40 grams a can.
Yeah. And then I usually eat that with some light mayo and some relish. And then I'll usually eat that with chips or fruit.
Yeah, and if I really need another snack, again, I eat a lot of beef sticks, a lot of beef jerky, and cheese. That's kind of like something I splurge on, I guess, is cheese. I like different types of cheese.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this would be helpful, and you're really good at this because I'm not, but it's snacks. So let's give some people some quick tips on healthy snack items, because I think that's a big thing that people struggle with is healthy snacks.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't need snacks. That's the problem. The problem is you don't eat big enough meals to fill you up, and you're relying now on snacks. And the biggest thing I see is people trying to beat around the bush. How do I get high protein without eating protein? You can't. Like, you're going to end up sacrificing something. Your carbs are going to be too high. Your fat is going to be too high. And I have to be realistic with most people. You don't work out enough to eat more than whatever is given to you as far as macros. And so snacks is a really hard thing to do because people want grab and go items, but that's going to be, your macros are going to be off. So
yeah,
you have to rely on raw vegetables, raw fruit. And again, like I said, beef jerky and cheese. I mean, trust me, I have tried to find other things to eat that kind of line up with the right amount during the day, and as far as calories and fat and all that stuff, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I wish it did. It just doesn't work. And so planning is super essential on your day, especially if you want to eat something very specific. There's many times I go through phases. I think we go through phases of what we like to eat. Remember when I was on that avocado toast binge?
Yeah.
My God, I ate avocado toast like every day.
Weird.
For like a while. I don't know why. I was just so hooked on it, but I would schedule my eating on the day just to fit around this one avocado toast that I absolutely had to have.
Yeah, you did go through that phase.
Yeah, and now I'm not really eating it anymore. So, it's kind of changed my day, and I get to eat something else instead. And so you have to kind of play around with those options. And I think what happens is people, they start tracking their food and they eat one thing for a couple weeks. And then they assume that they're eating that consistently, but they don't even realize that they've actually changed their eating, because you go through phases.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize that you're not even eating what you were logging 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I've been eating healthy. And then you look and you're like, oh, I'm not even eating that anymore. So tracking consistently for a long time, and I've said this before on the podcast, I tracked consistently every day for over a year. Mm-hmm. And until you get to that point, I don't think you can say you consistently track your food.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a message for those of you who keep blaming your metabolism or your hormones, or that you're big boned, and we'll just call this person Susan. Should we just call them Susan?
Sure.
As our avatar? Okay. So Susan, focus on these things. You're probably not sleeping enough. Your diet is probably super high in sugar. You're not eating enough protein. You're too sedentary, and you don't have enough muscle mass. So those are all huge reasons of why you're not losing that spare tire. No, it's true. Like, let's be real. Like every time I've talked to someone or had a consult with a client, and they come to me and they're like, Matt, I just can't lose the spare tire or this baby fat or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, okay, how are you sleeping? And they're like, 5-6 hours a night. I'm like, okay, we got to up that to 7 or 8. And they're like, ugh. They're like, what about my Netflix?
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry, you have to give up Netflix.
It's a lifestyle change,
Give up your phone.
It is for the good.
And then I'm like, okay, how much protein are you eating? I'm like, oh, I have no idea.
What's protein?
They're like, I have some chicken breast at some point. I'm like, okay, we got to up the protein. Okay. How's your activity outside of the gym? And they're like, I have a desk job, and then I don't do anything other than work out 2 or 3 times a week here. And I'm like, okay, so we got to up your activity. Like, how many steps are you getting? They're like, about 3,000 to 5,000. I'm like, okay, well, we got to up that to at least 10 to 15.
10,000, yeah.
10,000. If you want weight loss, I would even argue 15,000.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of steps.
It is. For the average person who is at a desk job, that is a lot of steps.
Yes. And then we do an in-body scan and we see the muscle mass is low. So fun fact, and I tell this to people also, is that on average, that 1 pound of muscle burns an average of 6 calories per pound of muscle, and body fat burns an average of only 2 calories per pound of body fat. So if you can gain more muscle mass, you can actually have more calories every day because, just resting, you're burning more calories naturally because you have more muscle mass.
Yeah.
So that's why we do such a big push towards building muscle with every single one of our clients, because 9 times out of 10, that will actually help their caloric burn. And then from there, that they will actually start shedding body fat even faster. And then the results happen. And then we just go from there.
And boom,
like problem solved. Like the solutions are out there and they're so simple. And I don't know why people keep on looking for a shortcut when there is no shortcut.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of hard work, and science research proves that this stuff works. I mean, it's very simple. It makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it requires change, and people don't like change.
Yeah. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you hear ourselves repeating ourselves a lot. And that's because that these things work and it hasn't changed. And then I think a lot of times that we don't need more knowledge. We just need reminders.
Yep. More reminders. Exactly. And we're going to make more of these podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. So any final thoughts before I wrap things up here today?
No, let's just summarize really quick again what foods can be misleading.
Okay, so quick summary: granola bars are often marketed as healthy snacks, and they're unfortunately extremely high in sugar, artificial ingredients, and they're very calorie dense. So avoid those at all costs. Number 2, we covered flavored yogurt, and even though that plain yogurt really is healthy, so please definitely eat that. But there's flavored versions out there that contain high amounts of sugar again and artificial additives. So avoid those. Number 3, we talked about veggie chips, and these are really just potato chips with vegetable powder, and they're very high in fat and sodium. So that's very unfortunate. We have smoothies next, and store-bought smoothies, or even smoothies you get at Jamba Juice or Nectar, can be very high in sugar and carbs. And these are often labeled as natural or organic. And, macro-wise, they're definitely going to spike your insulin, make you actually more brain foggy, and actually make it a lot harder to lose weight or to even have energy to even go work out.
Yep.
And then we have trail mix. And this is very deceiving because we talked about this earlier about how a 1 serving size is extremely small. It's very easy to overeat on something that's extremely calorie dense. And again, sugar. Recurring theme here. And then finally we have frozen yogurt. It's also often seen as a healthier alternative to ice cream, and I used to think that same thing.
Yeah.
And it's often high in sugar again.
It's just fake processed.
Yeah, processed and topped, and then often it's topped with other sugary items on top
toppings,
of that as well. So the whole goal on this podcast is mainly, if you can take one thing away, it's just focus on whole, minimally processed foods. And unfortunately, you're going to have to kind of bite the bullet, and just believe me, over time, just from experience, just know that you will start adapting and you will eventually kick those cravings. You just have to be willing to push through the suck at the beginning of it, because over time you can change, what you crave.
Yes, absolutely. It can be done. You just got to trust the process.
Absolutely. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. If this was helpful, please leave us a 5-star review so we know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit and DM your content suggestions there. We'd love to get some more topics to share with you. Until next time, good luck, have fun. Nailed it.